name is Jennifer Bean, just like the legume. And I've been using Packback, I believe, since the spring of 2020. And my spring classes are more sizable, so closer to 150, well, between 100 and 150 students. But my fall class is, so my spring class singular that I use Packback with is bigger, and my fall class is, because I use it with 2 classes in the fall, are moderate, so between 50 and 100, and one that's very small, less than 20. Because discussion boards were not fun to participate in, they were not fun to grade, and they seemed laborious. Students needed more help. They needed more scaffolding for writing a logical argument. They needed a little extra help taking a factlet, a tiny bit of information, and linking it to their evaluation tool. And they do a pretty good job once they've identified that evaluation tool of evaluating. So it's not that critical thinking skill gap. It was expressing that in a meaningful way. And so when we were talking about deep dives, that seemed to me the best intervention to try to help them. The way that in my bigger class, it's designed in these 3 larger modules, essentially. One of the modules is all about the reproductive stage of life. And so the first part would simply be, what are you curious about with nutrition and reproduction? And that open and that big. And then if they would do well with it, it made reading the discussions fun. The students reported that it didn't feel like a meeting where everyone had the same directive. And so they all just wanted to say the same thing. Now, the way that at the end of each module, it was what questions still remain about, or because a big theme in that class was about healthcare access, food access. So they had 3 options that they could go with. And so that's how we utilized it. So it was a way for them to get out that last question that maybe they didn't have an opportunity to ask in class. And what we would do then is when we would wrap up the module in class, I would go in and utilize the AI sorting tools and say, tell me the ones that were hot. Tell me the ones that were sleepers, right? That were really good, but didn't get a lot of interaction. So I would pull those out and I would contact the student and say, I really liked this post. I'd like to talk about it more in class. So we would utilize that. We would bring that in here, and the students could go and pick it up, and it enriched the classroom discussion, not simply about what was required, like here are facts, let's make sure we understand facts, but really took it to let's make these facts meaningful to me. Now, how I'm using it in the smaller class this semester, one that's getting ready to start, it's taking it a little further. Because there's only 11 of them, I only pick one that's like, this was what, generally we had this prompt, and generally there was a lot of these responses. And this is the one that I felt like captured everyone. And I want to spend just a few minutes making sure that we discuss it. Putting the time in up front and designing the assignment with the guiding questions makes grading easily twice as fast. Like I easily reduced my grading time in half. The students with those guiding questions, they wrote better papers. And so I was not spending all the time muddling through, what are you trying to tell me? Because I was getting the way that they chose to phrase it and the order that they chose it, and them not really linking it together, made it where I had to read each assignment at least 2 or 3 times before I finally got to reading the content. And so the use of deep dives has allowed me to skip ahead of that and start grading for content. And fortunately, the way that this platform is set up is already the evidence-based way that in dietetics profession, the way that we evaluate on a subjective basis. So the way that the evaluation tool that I need to use aligns very closely with what I do and what a lot of medical professions do, which is exceeds expectations, meets expectations, approaches expectations, does not meet or did not attempt. At my institution, many people use Packback questions and they use it appropriately. And so students are used to that platform, know it and enjoy it and understand it, and know that it is very engaging and it's not a burden to anybody. It is truly advancing the topic. So that was my only hesitation, was that we're going to use something that's familiar and we're going to add 2 things onto it. And is that going to affect their performance in all parts of this program? The other part with adding another facet is that I understand that students have limited resources, and particularly for my fall classes, these students are in an accelerated professional program, and so they don't have time to work more than 15 hours a week. And so unless they have a lot of scholarship, a lot of them are funding their way through school on other ways, like loans. And so I don't want to keep financial cost on top of them. It is an economically priced tool. There is a value that's to it, especially as more people adopt Packback and the students have a minimal to no burden for a cost for an additional course. And since I've been having the learning management system integration also improves access. So the students can, again, it's not that, oh, one more tool, where do I go to use that? It is, everything's in Canvas and it's in my my menu off to the side, and I only have to go to one place, and it just improves that muscle memory on where I need to go to be successful in my class.